see tons of folks coming in. Betty, Brittany, Bonnie. Oh, Betty, Brittany, Bonnie. Okay, I like that. Levon, Athena. Hello, good to see you again. Hi, guys. Good evening. Renee Summerhour checking in for Music Alliance. Glad that you guys could all join us tonight. Today, we are talking about being the change, what easy things we can all do to support women in music. And we have a phenomenal guest tonight who will be helping us to kind of expand on the topic of how we can support women in music. She is a singer, she is a keynote speaker, host, CEO, mom, and woman, and warrior woman business extraordinaire. I see it back there in your in your prompt. Let's welcome Jasmine Sandler to Music Alliance. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, nice to be here. Nice to see everyone. Happy to
Yes, thank you
happy
for
to
being
share
here.
some knowledge and experience to help people.
Oh, I know you have tons of experience. For those of anyone who's not familiar with who you are, or what you do, just give us a little piece of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I am a CEO. I actually have my main company is JS Media. I started in 2006. It's a digital marketing and branding agency. And I started it because I wanted to serve an underserved market in the business arena, which is really small and mid-sized businesses. So we have been providing a very high-level concierge agency level of service to companies and entrepreneurial ventures that can't really afford big agencies. So I did that in 2006. And after the recession in 2009, have made changes to the business, wrote a book, and I'm very involved in the world of executive and personal branding. So that's what I keynote on, and particularly to women, and not by design. Really, there's just a very big need for it, I saw. And out of that, I started Warrior Women in Business as a subset. It's a DBA of my main company. And Warrior Women in Business is a podcast, very busy podcast, event series in New York and Los Angeles that's really intended to bring female leaders to female entrepreneurs and my passion, women in music. I'm a musician, singer-songwriter, not in the traditional sense, but in the sense of writing songs that really drive impact. I look to with my music and my businesses, everything I do is intended to help other associations and things like that. So like as an example right now, I wrote a song and we developed a very unique premium design for women in the military. So we're raising money to support the Women's Military Memorial in Virginia, which tells the stories of 3 million women in the military. So I kind of bring everything together under one hood, but my whole goal is impact and helping people.
Oh, Renee, hold on.
I don't know why I'm muted. All right. No, it sounds like you, again, like you said, a concierge, and very much a business approach to branding and supporting women and everything like that. So I love that because it's very much transferable to anyone who wants to be in music and in musician. So let's start asking you some of the questions I have this evening. In your
Sure.
experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that women face in the music industry today?
Oh, well, there are many. So there are challenges, but there are also lots of opportunities. I've failed to mention I'm a keynote speaker in the music industry, and I recently hosted a concert with the mayor's office in New York to help raise money for female musicians. Because to answer your question, female musicians, no matter if you're a musician or you're working in the music industry, like in tech or in audiovisual or anything, in concert tour management, we're a smaller segment or fragment of the entire industry. So is inevitably a salary unbalance, which women tend to come across at all levels that I've seen, whether you're a paid musician and you're looking to get paid for a gig. I've seen that men tend to get paid higher for women at the same level. There seem to be less opportunities for those women. There still is this boys network that we come across in the music business industry, both on the musician side and the general business. So, I'm very much about collaboration and not divisiveness. a lot of the talks that I do and events that I produce are about bringing all players to the table and those that support each other. So women need to come to the table with their value. They need to stand firm on their value. I think that a big challenge that women have is that they undervalue themselves, and that becomes a big issue in how they get paid. So I've certainly seen that on my podcast. I've had the CMO of Guitar Center, who was a woman who talked about the challenges. I've had rehearsal studio owners here in New York City that are female, which are like 1 in a million, talk about how difficult it is. And I've seen them push very hard in areas where they didn't really need to push so hard. I think the opportunities are for women like this platform today, I think is really important, is for women to come together and support each other on an ongoing basis so that we come as a unit and have strength in numbers.
And that's really good that you say kind of like coming together as one, because that kind of follows my next question. How can women create more inclusive networking opportunities to benefit each other? I think sometimes just putting yourself out there can be really hard, because you just don't know what you're going to face. So how can they just be more creative about creating these inclusive settings for women to feel comfortable in and to network in?
Well, I'll give you an example. Last Sunday, one of my, I have a lot of music business partners I work with. We do a lot of events and things. So we co-hosted a women's jam. And it was interesting, but I was happy that at least a dozen women showed up, And what I found, because I'm me, is I just kind of grab the bull by the horn. That's who I am, is that when the women came into the room, they were all very timid. And I thought that was interesting because I've jammed with men, women, and in jams with men, you don't really see that. They just kind of go for it. I think that one of the key pieces of advice I have for women is to think like leaders more, and think like leaders who support other women, not just to be a leader. So, if you host a group or you manage a group or you're involved with a group, contributing to a group in a very meaningful way can help to keep those groups cemented more, whether it's a meetup group, it's a community group, it's, like I mentioned, a jam, or it could be something more like some of the things I've done at NAMM and NAMM Women, is to actually intentionally have a panel of women. But women need to really come together in a longer term way than just a one-off, once a year, I'm going to go to NAMM Women, in LA. I don't think that does it any justice. It needs to be ongoing. And the beauty of it is, at the end of the day, those relationships develop over time, and those relationships should then enable opportunities to be passed amongst the women in those groups. But it takes effort.
Absolutely. It's kind of like how we have NABJ for journalists, different conferences for journalists where we can all come together and do workshops. There's like amazing workshops, that make you, a better reporter, investigative reporter. Same thing with singers. How can you tap into your inner creativity? How can you network better? All of those things I think are really important. And anybody who's listening right now, please don't be afraid. Send your questions in the chat. I am positive Jasmine would love to answer them. So if you have any questions about who she is, what she does, and just the topic at hand, please feel free to ask any questions. It says, where do we follow the calendar for, the calendar, I think you meant to say, for events and workshops? Where do we follow the calendar for events and workshops, Bonnie? I don't know if that is a question for Jasmine or for our tech team, but I'm sure someone will be happy to answer you.
I think it's probably more for Music Alliance, I would assume.
Definitely.
I mean,
definitely.
Please come to the Warrior Women events, but I think this
right.
is Music Alliance I'm against.
Yes. No, I love that. Thank you for the question, Bonnie. So back to what we were going to, I agree. I think it's really important that we really create spaces for women to go to, just so that they can get their foot in the door and really start introducing themselves to other people. I know in our—
And also, I don't want to interrupt, but I am, because this is an important point that I didn't make, is that in my world, in my business world, I'm always encouraging people to seek out mentors who are where they want to go. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a woman either. Like, it can be a man. For example, I interviewed the CEO of NAMM. It was a great interview. And we talked about, and you guys should watch that interview, because I really got into how is NAMM supporting women. And I think that he's doing a fantastic job, you know. So there are men in the industry that are looking out for women as well. And I've had a few of them on my podcast. So looking out for mentors is also something that should be, I think I just saw in the chat something about what can women do on a daily basis. I saw that like out of the corner of my eye. So I think like seeking out mentors that are where you want to go, whether it's, you know, whether it's music for the sake of musicianship or it's business or career. That's very important.
I feel like you're just reading right off of my question sheet because that was
I'm
my
not
next
looking, I'm
question
just looking
about
at you.
mentorship. She's
So,
like right here with it. I love
I
it.
don't know.
No, I mean, because mentorship is really important, I like to tell people sometimes you can't reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you have to really follow what someone else is doing. And not to
Yeah.
say not make it your own, but their formula works, right? And you just
Yeah.
kind of custom it to yourself. So if we could kind of dive in a little bit more into mentorship, how does one shape or get introduced to, like, how does mentorship work when it comes to being an artist?
Mm.
What should we be looking for when it comes to mentorship, so we're not just getting something from someone and taking it and running with it,
Well,
right?
that's why I said, you know, this to me, everything is synonymous with business strategy. I mean, I do business strategy for executives at Fortune 100 companies, and then I also support artists. And it's the success I see is always the same. It's having some type of specific strategy and plan. Because if you just throw paint at the wall looking for a mentor, it's not going to work. So what I was saying is the mentoring, right? We're deciding the profile of the person that really is where you want to go or where you want to be in your career. I don't know what everybody in this room wants to do, right? So I think that's number one, is having a game plan, you know, and then mentors, like I'm a mentor, you know, I mean, I have an internship program, and mentors give their time, and time is money. So if you're seeking a mentor, I have found, even for myself, where I have mentors, is that if I give as much as I expect to receive from a mentor. So you also want to look at what skills and attributes can I bring to the table to this prospective mentor? What can I offer? You know, I mean, I could give you a million examples of things I've done to get to this point in my career. A lot of it has been very hard work and a lot of effort, and seeking people that I thought, you know, I really want to be in this lane. I want to be with this group of people because they're going to get me to the next level. And a musician example of mine is I go to Juilliard, right? Um, and I sought that out and I worked very hard to get there because I knew my mentors, which is true, for becoming a better musician are there, and they are. But I had to build myself up. I had to give a lot to get to that point. So you need to have a plan. You need to give yourself some time. You got to look at whomever this is that you believe is a good mentor for you and say, what can I bring to the table to that person? You know,
Absolutely.
and you also can't be afraid.
Mm.
You know, that's like a big thing. I mean, I'm not when it comes to that stuff, but a lot of people are. A lot of people are, like I said, I was so surprised in that jam room. So many people are timid. You just got to get rid of that timidness.
What do they say? Closed mouths don't get fed, you know? So
That's true.
you got to put yourself out there at
Yeah.
some point, right? You got to take the leap of faith. Bonnie asks, are there production companies for music like there are for models and actors?
You mean talent agencies?
Maybe she means talent agencies, or um yeah, maybe I would assume that's a talent agency, production companies, maybe
Well,
some form of
I can tell you my
representation.
world. So I'll just answer that from my perspective.
So
So
production companies.
production. So for producing music, or
Yeah, we'll have to
because
get a little bit more specific.
agencies and product, because my agency, what we do for artists is we do their business coaching and their representation for sync opportunities and other opportunities. I have producers we work with, but we're not a production company.
Mhm.
So in my mind, a production company in music is a company that's going to produce your music and distribute it and get it out there, which there are millions of.
Right.
Are they asking further questions there?
Yeah, like shows casting artists. I'm not sure if that So like basically like an agency on behalf of
Sure.
musicians,
That
right?
falls
I
into
mean, I know we've talked about it before
that
on the
falls into
DJ panel that they
talent
have that.
representation. That's what that
Mhm.
person is asking.
She said, for
Like,
example, Preview does that for agencies, right?
yeah, like right, talent rep. So you can, yeah. I mean, there are, and those have many different types. For example, there are sync agencies, right? There are agencies that represent your music for potential opportunities across ads, film, TV. You know, we do uh, things in video games. So it just really depends what you're looking for. And then there are the ones very specific. I mean, I'm involved with the Guild of Music Supervisors, and there's agencies for like every little thing that you possibly want to get into. But you have to have it all buttoned up. I mean, the talks that I do at NAMM are just like getting the artist to that level so that they can work with an agency. They have a brand, they have the EPK set up, they have the shows, they have the photography, they have all of that. And then particularly when they're at that level and they're serious, they will go to an agency for representation based on their specific goals.
Yeah. And we do talk a lot about sync licensing in our sync licensing class as well. So that's something to jump on to if you're interested on how to
Yeah.
approach people for that, how to become part of a sync licensing agency if that's something you're looking to get. Let's shift back over into visibility and how crucial it is to be visible. What are some effective ways to amplify the voices of the work of women in the music industry? What role do you think male allies play in supporting gender equality in the music industry? It's kind of a two-parter as far as what visibility means and what role men play in being an ally. So we talked slightly about how men can be mentors to women, and we'll kind of sidebar that for now, but let's talk about how crucial visibility is.
Well, visibility is crucial on a number of levels, right? And to me, it always goes back to the personal brand plan. I mean, that is so important to decide what you want to do, who you want to be, how you're different, not to be cliche, but it's very, very true. And then where do you want to be visible, right? Because if you're one of a million doing the same thing in the same channel, to me, it's like pointless, you know? So that's why having that plan for where it is visibility makes sense based on your art, right? Your music, as well as the circles that you want to attract and be involved with, right? So I have a whole course that I launched on this subject. And a lot of it has to do is developing the brand, finding the right circles, then finding the channels based on those circles. And a lot of that is listening as well, because you could smatter yourself all over the place, but it's a very ineffective strategy. One thing that we did talk about is getting involved with the women's group. So I think that's a no-brainer in your local community, because you'll find some strengths there, right? But also being involved with the music community at large in your area, that's where you'll find a lot of those allies that you just mentioned. One thing that we do a lot for bands, and I'm a rock artist and work with a lot of rock bands, is that we look to get the bands tied into bigger bands to help them raise their visibility. Because and I always tell bands, I don't even care at this point. They say, oh, I want to play a show again at this venue in New York, and they've already played it a million times. I just say, you're wasting your time, because your visibility is going to be the same. So looking at different places to play, different things to get into, you got to kind of like expand your mind a bit, And the other thing, I always talk about listening, because you have to ask people what they think of your music, of your brand, but that will give you a lot of information about where you actually should be visible.
It's like
And that's where
analytics,
you
social media.
find allies.
Mm-hmm.
That's, in my experience, where you find your best allies that will be the ones that will actually listen to the music, will actually come to the show, will actually buy your t-shirt, may come up with an idea for you. Like, I heard about this. You might want to check this out. It could be an opportunity for sync. I've seen a lot of things just by people being in the right place, having a strategy, and having a solid brand and being consistent. And they find their allies that way. I would also say definitely being involved with organizations. I mean, I'm very involved with She Is the Music, Women in International Music, Women in Music. War Women has a whole music marketing division. So we have events, obviously the Music Alliance, the Guild of Music Supervisors, NAMM Women. I mean, there's a huge list and a lot of power players in there. So there's no reason why you can't find allies if you're intentionally attending events and involved.
Now, Betty is asking, what do you recommend us getting into the music industry when we're just started? She says, I've tried to apply to internships and any entry-level positions and attended music events to know people or network with people, but I found out it's still hard to get in, like get that start. And I think what you just said can really cater to that question she's asking. How do I get in? How do I start? How do I, it's that networking, it's getting into those groups, because like I said, even as a journalist, it's hard out in the world by yourself and trying to learn everything by yourself. But when you have
Absolutely.
NABJ and you have organizations and women in music and warrior women in business and people that are going to help you with branding and sync licensing and getting into all those arenas, you really have to get into those spaces. So excuse me, Betty, I hope that her answer kind of ties into why you may be finding it difficult to get that start or to get in. Bonnie says,
can I just help you with that a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I run an internship program, and to me, I always say I put in as much effort as the interns do, which means that I've had the internship program since 2006, and I can count on one hand the best interns. I've had hundreds of them. And the ones that stood out are the ones that said, I really want to be in your industry, right? And they've made a massive effort to do so. They go the extra mile. They do extracurricular activities. And they don't just take on my internship, they'll take on multiple internships in the industry without even getting paid some of these things, right? That's what it takes. You have to be, and I think it's easy because I don't know about you, I find a lot of lazy people. And so I think it's easy. If you're a hard worker, you really want it, and you're a professional, I think you're already ahead of the game. I've seen it quite a bit.
Athena's asking what kind of mentorship this is. Is there any information on how anybody else can get involved in your mentorship?
Yeah, I can send that after. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going with your questions, but that's easy. I can send that after.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So the next question again has to do with allies, and what role do you think male allies should play in supporting gender equality in music? So give me some specifics on what men can do to help further women along in this industry.
Sure, that's pretty easy. I'll give you an example, not related to music, but it is very analogous. So one of my clients in the healthcare industry initially brought me on to help with his executive brand, and particularly because he wanted to support the women's initiative for this major corporation. And he found it difficult to be a male ally and have a face there, right? And his attributes, and I think this is across the board, is he understood, which most people should understand, that in a business setting, music setting, band situation, different people bring different qualities to the table. So they're open-minded. So these male allies, they understand that by aligning with women, it's going to help their cause, their career development. I think that there's a lot of male allies out there in every single industry. It's really, and I think all the terrible things that have happened in the music industry have actually helped the music industry because women have more of a voice right now. And there's definitely more opportunities now than I think there have ever been. Not that that's my total background, but in the last 10 years, I've seen that quite a bit in the music industry. So again, attending events where men are involved, like again, at NAMM, which I'm very involved with NAMM, there were quite a few male allies in the Women of NAMM talk. I mean, just getting involved with Women of NAMM, it's incredible. Like, I've met the CEO of Yamaha, the CEO of Guitar Center. These are men, and they're major allies of NAMM, and they support women. So they're there, but you just need to be involved with that's why I listed a lot of those organizations, that's where they are, because we all have the same interests, when it comes to the music business industry, we want to see it grow. We want to see people have jobs. We want it to drive an economy. So, they're at the top organizations and they are already involved.
Would you say that getting the pay up to where it should also be an improvement that they could help with? Or have you seen men advocate for better pay for women in the music industry?
I've seen men involved with the women's initiatives where they're seeking higher pay, and they are definitely supporting that. I don't know if they're funding. I don't know. I don't know behind the scenes whether they're funding the initiatives, but they're certainly talking about it. I'm sure that they are. I know that there's like NAMM is just such a great example because a lot of it's primarily music manufacturers, like Yamaha and Gibson and CF Martin, all these guys, right? And they are funding these things. So in part, they are helping financially as well.
Absolutely. Share with us a personal story about a time when you felt really empowered by from the support from your peers. Like, was there a time while you were performing or, when you were getting into more of the business side and branding side? What was a moment that you felt really empowered and supported by your peers in your community?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, quite a few times. So if you don't mind, I'll give you a couple of examples. Two examples are just standing out to me. So when I decided to start Warrior Women in Business, decided to start it because I felt the support from my community. I was keynote speaking at a women's leadership exchange conference here in New York, and there were like 800 women in the room, and I've never felt so supported as a keynote speaker. People were asking questions. They were actively involved. They came up to me after. They took my book. They really said to me, you're doing the right thing, which gave me the power to do the next thing. You know what I mean? Like going from that keynote to starting this podcast and then running events, you need some type of positive response to do so in general market research. So I definitely felt that in that room. I felt that a number of times as a speaker for sure. And I really enjoy speaking and educating. And then in the music community, the further I've gone in the music community on the more of the traditional education side, as an educator and someone that's a student at Juilliard, I definitely feel lots of support to keep doing better and no judgment. And I think that really helps you when you don't feel the judgment and you feel valued as any person. But I really feel that helps me go to continue on my personal journey.
Absolutely. I love that. Definitely gives you the strength to, like you said, what am I going to do with it now? I have all this stuff here in my basket. Now, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to let it sit or am I going to let it build into something great? I like that.
Yes, you're right.
Lastly, just kind of looking ahead, what gives you hope about the future of women in music and what further changes would you like to see?
Oh, well, the number one change I want to see, I'm going to start with that. And the reason why I produced this concert where it was an all female fronted rock battle of the bands, including my band. So we're 5 bands. I gave everybody trophies. No one lost. And everyone got paid. And I did that literally. It was all my effort. The reason I did it is because I really want to see musicians get paid. I really want to see reverse engineering of what's going on in the music industry. It is, as I could blame COVID, right? But the thing is, the venues, everything that's going on with the venues is very tough. Venues in New York close all the time. Here, most of them have been absolved into the Live Nation monopoly, right? And musicians are paying to play. I never pay to play, ever, ever. And I get good shows because I just refuse. In New York and LA, this is what I see at least, a lot of this pay to play culture. And I think it's wrong. It's my personal opinion. I'd love for that to change. And I'm really trying to be a part of that as one person, but I can't do it alone. I just unanimously, we need to show our value, our strength. We need to get paid for the work that we put in. With the bands, I always break down spreadsheets. They think I'm crazy. I'm like, listen, You pay this in rehearsal space. You pay this in equipment. You pay your member dues at the musicians union here in New York. So, like make a spreadsheet and it will help you determine what your value is. So then going back to, I think, our first question, you can say, I am worth X number of dollars an hour because of my investments. So for me, it's my mission to change that. I forget what the other part of the question was, but that for me is very, very important.
No, you answered it. It was and what gives you hope about the future of women in music. But you did answer the second part of the question, which was what you would like to see change, which I think a lot of people would agree on that. But what gives you hope also? I feel like there's so many good things happening in the
Oh,
industry
there's
too,
so many good
looking
things.
forward
Here's what's
to.
funny. I don't know about you, but I am seeing this like onslaught of female drummers. All of a sudden in the
Mhm.
last few years, there's all these female drummers, and it's exciting. Because I think, drummers, especially in rock or even in jazz, have traditionally been more male than female. So that gives me, just that alone has been giving me a lot of hope and excitement about women in music being more vocal. Obviously, in New York, I attend as many, they're really great events that, especially women in music, they have the best events. The events that they have, Warner has events, Sony, I attend these events. They're really fun. But what I like about them is seeing the women coming together and they're achieving not just in traditional getting a job at a Sony, but as an entrepreneur, it gets me excited that they're doing a lot of entrepreneurial things in the music industry and getting support from other women. So that's also gives me a lot of hope for what's happening.
That's awesome. We
Yeah.
have a question from one of our viewers. They said it was from Bonnie, and she was asking that she likes going to open mic nights, but as of now, she's looking to do open mic nights more in LA than in the Bay Area. She's asking, is local better to start when it comes to like your music career? Should we start local or should you just throw it out there and see what happens?
Well, from a marketing perspective, um, whether you're, is a good question, but whether you're a musician or you're a business, local is the best place to start because you want to test the waters. I'm sure you know people in the local community. So if you know people, you can start to create the groundswell that you're going to need. And you can make mistakes there. I mean, you make mistakes, doesn't matter anyway. But you can do things and you could use that as like a testing ground and learn before you make any big jump, because you never know who also in your local community you can meet that can bring you to the next place. Like I had one of the bands that I chose to play at my event is now moving to LA. And they said, hey, Jasmine, what's the scene like in LA? Would you like to play out here? I'm like, this is good. These guys can help get my music out there without even doing anything. So, I've known them in New York forever. So it's very good to build a base in your local community, learn. And also all of these organizations that I mentioned, if you're in San Francisco, I think she mentioned, I mean, there's chapters in every city in the United States. So you start looking at those organizations and start looking at those chapters. That's a great place to start.
So tell us a little bit about your internship, because you've mentioned your mentorship, and you've mentioned just with being in business and how you help with branding and different things for musicians. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think Athena really wants to know about what your internship
Yeah, no
entailed.
problem. So for me, as a business owner, I've always wanted to develop people into employees because I know that personally is how I started in my career and seems to have the best output. So the internship program that I have is really for people that want to get involved with branding, digital marketing, and music and entertainment. That either they did really want to be in the career and they have usually with my internship program, they've already had some experience. It's really to get them to the next level. I don't own a big company yet. I always say that. So it's a lot of hard work, but you learn so much and it's like very real world experience I try to give. I've had interns just on the music side. I've had interns just on the branding side and design and just on the digital marketing, search marketing. So it's kind of fun and it's very dynamic, I think, you know.
Yeah. So kind of more back to you, rock jazz. Is that
Jazz
more
rock.
jazz rock?
But
Okay.
thanks. I might switch it now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it goes either way. I'm a jazzy kind of girl. So tell us about what is that? What is that genre and how have you paved your way as a singer in this genre?
Yeah. So it's funny. So my music is very story driven. That's number one, right? Story driven and stories to drive impact. I mean, it's not cliche because it's my stories and what I see in my experience, right? Like everyone else. I started off really punk singing, and I really love the world of ballads and stories. So that's where the rock comes in. Um, my nickname is Jazz. I love jazz. I love jazz female singers. I mean, I love them. I love their sound. It's so soulful, beautiful. It can be dark. I really like that, but I love rock. Part of my internship actually is I always teach people rock history. That's like one thing. So anyway, that's important. I feel like people need to know it. But so actually the term jazz rock I actually got from The Doors because I don't know, I was watching some video and it wasn't Jim Morris, I forget the drummer's name off the top of my head, but he said, "Oh, we're breaking into the world of jazz rock." And I'm like, that's exactly what I write. So I just termed it because that's what it is. It's soulful, it can be dark, it can be extremely energetic, but it's telling a story that's going to have impact. So right now, I have a band that's called Silent Fury. It's, the band I created the last 7 years now. But I'm doing more solo work and I'm also writing on other projects right now with other musicians and other bands. And my favorite thing in music is writing. Number one. I love writing. I love hearing a riff someone else comes up with and just saying, okay, like let's create a song. I just really enjoy it. So the music is intended to drive impact. That's what it's all about, So my Warrior Women theme song just released last 2 weeks ago. And I'm talking right now with the NHL about utilizing it
Nice.
for the new Women's Hockey League, the PWHL, because they're very underserved. They are salary problems all over the place. They're having a lot of issues.
I didn't even know we had a female
Yeah,
hockey organization.
we do. It's a PWHL. It launched in January of this year. I think there's now 12 teams. I grew up playing. I've been a hockey player my whole life. So, but it's endorsed by the NHL. That's a big deal for the US. And they're really fighting to get better salaries right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
So
good. It's good.
yeah, so I'm noticing everyone is talking kind of in the chat here about some things. And if some of you all want to be more involved in Music Alliance and become members, Bonnie, I see that you're sharing or want to share some music. We have some exciting things, Song Sharks going on here if you want your music to be kind of looked at and how we can make it better. We have programs for that here at Music Alliance. So please, tech team, feel free to give her any information that we can help her with any music if you need help or guidance in that way. And, a lot of our experts, when they come on, like they are also here to answer your questions. So if you have them, Jasmine, is there a way that people can get in touch with you, ask you questions,
Yes.
website information so they
Yeah,
can find that mentor?
absolutely. So if he wouldn't mind putting it in the chat would help me. But so I have two main websites. I have many, but the two main ones are JasmineSandler.com. That's the agency, main agency. Everything is there. The JSM for Artists division is there. And it will show you, we don't just work with musicians, we work with visual artists, filmmakers, photographers. The whole point of JSM for Artists is to help bring opportunities to each other. So bring a photographer to a film project, bring a musician into a film, those type of things. So we do that there. And Jasmine at JasmineSandler.com is my email. That's fine to share. WarriorWomenBusiness.com is all about warrior women in business. And from there, you can see the podcast. I've had like seriously amazing guests. I did a podcast today. It's just, I want people to watch my podcast, not just because I want them to watch it, but I have learned so much from my podcast guests. I had Bruce Lee's daughter on my podcast a few weeks ago, Shannon Lee, I've had major people on the podcast. So there's so much advice, and it's not from me, it's from these people I just can't believe they're on my podcast. So I would encourage people to watch the podcast. There's so much great advice, and I get them to give actionable advice to help people. So sure, they can reach out about my internship program, mentorship, any resources that you need. I am very involved with the New York City Mayor's Office for Media and Entertainment. I am a partner of theirs. We do a lot of events together. So, and do some work also with Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce. So please reach
Awesome.
out. Yeah.
Bonnie asks if you know any, when are the next most recommended events for women to go to or visit, or should they keep an eye out on places like Eventbrite? Do you know of any top of mind going on this year?
Events in music specifically, well, NAM, but that's on. In New
When is
York, I
Sam
know we
every
have,
year?
yeah, they twice a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's something in New York that I think I'm going to be speaking at. It's called Mono. It's in Brooklyn. It's another big deal music. I've never spoken there, but someone reached out to me through the guild. So that's in Brooklyn, that's in New York. I personally check because I'm a member of multiple organizations. So I share a lot of their events in my own social media, the ones that I feel are worthy going to. Because listen, for me, any event, you're spending time and money. So I tend to list them or show them, or I choose to speak at specific events. So happy for you to take a look, like email me, I can send you a list as well. Just depending on what you're looking for, whether you're looking to get into, like I love the Guild of Music Supervisors. In October is their award ceremony in LA. That's something I'm planning on going to. That's a big deal. So, it just depends where you
Yeah.
are too. I'm in New York. So
Yeah.
it just depends.
And all of those events always have like side kickoff events going on. So like you said, if you have something going on in LA and you can't like actually go to the award ceremony, get in town because
An
there's going to be
excellent
so many
point.
people there usually. It doesn't matter what conference you go to, there's always like spin-off events or networking events going on outside of that award ceremony. So, if you are in this area, the West Coast or Vegas or LA or wherever you are, you don't sometimes it's going to be difficult for everyone to get into those spaces, right? But if you
That's
can
true.
go to a free networking event that goes before or after the event, that's definitely going to be a benefit to a
Yeah, I
lot of
mean,
you.
like South by Southwest and those
Oh
types of,
yeah.
I don't know, I didn't even think of it. But but there's so many side events. That's absolutely true. So, I mean, a lot of times if I want to attend big deal events, if I'm not speaking there and I want to attend them, I look for cocktail hours to go to. Many times I'll just go to, I mean, I can't even count how many times I've done that in different cities. I just go to the cocktail hour. I'm not even going to the event.
Mhm.
And maybe the next year I'll go to the event, but I get to meet some people.
Yeah.
It's very good to meet people, even either in the event or, like you said, a side event. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. And Aaliyah, that question about is there possible internship positions in Atlanta, everything that we've kind of talked about tonight, hopefully that'll help you find that internship. I don't know if you know specifically any, Jasmine, since you're kind of in a different region. But
Atlanta, I
yeah,
don't know much about.
yeah.
I mean,
But
I
just
have a lot of connections in Atlanta, so I can ask them, but I don't really know off the top of my head. Like I
well, we
said, I
did put her
think,
email up there.
yeah, yeah, she can email me.
Yeah, feel free.
So, yeah, yeah, that's fine.
You were gonna say something. I'm sorry. I didn't want, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was gonna say what I was saying before is a lot of these organizations that have chapters. I know Women in Music has a really active chapter in Atlanta, only because one of the board members of women in music, and I had a meeting when she was in New York. And then she said, "Oh, I'm now in Atlanta." And I said, "Oh, how's the scene? How's the chapter?" And very vibrant. So that would be one that I would, if I were that person, I would take a look at.
Okay. Aaliyah, she said Women in Music chapter in Atlanta. There you go. Run
Yeah.
full force. All
Yeah,
right, Jasmine, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late where you are, and you are
yes,
just we appreciate you and your knowledge and how we can all be the change in helping women in the music industry. So we just really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again.
absolutely. Thanks for having me on. And it was nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And everybody, again, if you need more information, if you want to see this interview in its totality, you got to become a member. Our tech team, you know what to do. You can send them to Music Alliance. Our members, our links are all down there. You can register right there. Okay. And we still have a lot of things coming up, including Song Sharks challenges for those of you who are sharing your socials and your music with each other. If you want to get that music critiqued, if you want someone to help invest in your musical future, please make sure you go to our website and sign up for Song Sharks, because we still got some spots left. Okay, so hurry up and get into those spots, so we can help you, whether you're male or female, get into the area of music that you're trying to get into. And hopefully these experts are shining a little bit of light on how you can do that easier, for yourself and for your career. So again, Jasmine, thank you so much, and everyone have a good night. Take care.